Okay, page 34, and we're continuing in Pirqe Abot. Happy Lag Omer, and let's read some Mishnayot. Ben Zoma Omer. So first of all, who was Ben Zoma? So Ben Zoma, his full name was Shimon ben Zoma. Shimon, the son of Zoma. He was called Ben Zoma because on the one hand he was a big Tamil Chacham. On the other hand, he didn't get the name Rabbi. He didn't get the name Rabbi because in order to get the name Rabbi, you actually have to get semicha from the Ad Bedin or from the Nasi. And if he didn't give you semicha, you wouldn't be called Rabbi. So they called him by his father's name. It was like a way of referring to him as an honorific. He was called Ben Zoma, the son of Zoma. And he was around the days of Rabbi Akiva. And he had a series of statements regarding different human attributes which people want. People want to be reach chokhmah. They want to be wise. People want to be rich. People want to have a good character, have courage, right? So these are different human attributes which everybody wants. So Ben Zoma is going to give these human attributes the Jewish definition, right? So what's the Jewish definition of being a wise man? What's the Jewish definition of being rich? What's the Jewish definition of being courageous? You understand? So let's read. Ben Zoma Omer. Ezehu Chacham Halomed Mikol Adam. The first thing is Chokhmah. What is considered a wise man? So in Greek thinking, a wise man, a philosopher, is a person who has the intellectual strength to, so to speak, pierce this world and reach the metaphysical world. And in the metaphysical world, he's going to gain certain knowledge that regular people cannot gain, right? That's what the philosopher does in Greek thinking. So, meaning, the wisdom is up there, and it is the job of the philosopher to reach that place, and he reaches it alone, and he gets the state of wisdom, and that's it. That's what makes him a philosopher. Judaism is, I don't want to say almost the opposite, but it's dramatically different. What is considered a wise man in Jewish thinking? It's the exact opposite. It's the ability to learn from the people around you, to learn wisdom from the people around you. Meaning, if you cannot learn wisdom from the people around you, according to Ben Zoma, you are not a Chacham. If you think that wisdom is somehow achieved by going to a mountaintop, climbing the top of the mountain, and getting close to the spiritual realm, and somehow piercing the spiritual realm, that in Judaism is not Chokhmah. Chokhmah in Judaism is first and foremost learning from the people around you. And if you can learn from the people around you, the people who came before you, then you can become greater than them. And I'll tell you how you can become greater than them. So everybody sitting in this room could theoretically be greater than even the greatest Chacham. How? What do you think? How can you become greater than the greatest Chacham?
Being the best version of yourself.
Being the best version of yourself, but you can attain what even the greatest Chacham couldn't attain. How can that possibly be? And the secret is Halomed Mikol Adam. Because all these people came before us, and all these people contributed to learning, and I'll tell you how. So Harambam wrote the Mishneh Torah. In my view, and I said this several times, I think Harambam was one of the greatest Chachamim that ever lived, period. He was the only individual that summarized all the laws of the Torah Shebe'al Peh in one clear book called Mishneh Torah. Nobody else ever did that before. So for me, Harambam is maybe one of the greatest Chachamim ever. Okay. Not like Moshe Rabbeinu. Obviously, Moshe Rabbeinu was the number one. The Torah says so. And you can become greater than Harambam. How?
By picking up everything that was after him?
By picking up everything. What do you mean by picking up everything that was after him? Be more specific.
There were so many wise rabbis and people that came after him that you could learn so much from that weren't around during his time. So you can apply yourself with a lot of that knowledge that came on after him.
Right.
Along with whatever he taught too, in order to...
Right. So when I was young, I once visited the chief rabbi of Tel Aviv with my father. I was a little boy, maybe 7, 8 years old. And we visited the chief rabbi of Tel Aviv. And he saw me And my father told him, his name was Rabbi Chaim Halevi, so my father told him, give him a beracha. So he gave me a beracha. And he said, you should be even greater than your father in Torah. I said, okay, fine. So then we left later on, and me and my father are walking in the streets of Tel Aviv, and I told my father, really? Like, what type of beracha is that? Like, it's not real. Meaning, even though I was young, I realized I wasn't gonna reach the level of my father. He wrote so many books and so many articles, and he had such chidushim in Torah. And my father told me I'm wrong. He said, whether you're as great as me or not as great as me is not the point. He says, but if you learn from me, then you know what you're like. He said, it's like there's a giant and there's a midget. And the midget grows and he can only reach 4 feet tall or 3 feet tall, whatever the height is. And the giant is like 10 feet tall and he's always going to be bigger than the midget. But if the midget climbs on top of the shoulders of the giant, then he can see even further than the giant. He said, it's similar like that. If you study my Torah, I already wrote the books. I already brought the knowledge. I already wrote the articles and explained and made the chidushim. You have a much easier time. You just have to read everything I wrote, and then you can add just a little to what I wrote, and you're going to become greater than me. That's how you can become greater than me. And that's the point of Ben Zoma. If you're going to do it by yourself, if you're going to say, I'm going to start from point zero, and now I'm going to start studying Torah from point zero, and I will try to achieve whatever I can achieve. You're not going to achieve anything. You may achieve something. It's going to be very minuscule. But if you take all the people that came before you, and all the people that surround you, and you learn from them what they already brought to the world. So I brought the example of Rambam. You already wrote the Mishnah Torah. The Mishnah Torah is an absolute masterpiece of brilliance beyond comprehension. Okay, it's brilliant beyond comprehension. But it's already written. All I have to do is study it. I can study the whole Mishnah Torah, 1,000 chapters, study the 1,000 chapters, and then I learn something additional, and I can, so to speak, stand on the shoulders of Rambam and see further even than Rambam was able to see, because now I have the benefit of Rambam having done the work before me. So if you're intelligent, you don't try to start from point zero. You try to start from the point that the previous Chachamim left us at, right? The previous Chachamim already contributed to the world. We have to build upon their knowledge, right? And by building upon their knowledge, we can attain wisdom that is greater than their wisdom. You understand this point? It's a very profound point, and it's a point that really distinguishes Jewish wisdom from Greek philosophers. By us, we're always building, we're always developing, right? And we're all interconnected with the wisdom that we teach each other. So I just want to make sure this point is clear. So, right? To study from everything. Now there's another aspect to this. So you believe in an Avod Yosef, you believe in the Yalkut Yosef, and you don't want to hear anything else. Okay. I believe in, Haram Mordechai Eliyahu. I was a student of Mordechai Eliyahu. I don't want to hear anything else. And then another guy believes in some other Chacham. Okay, so that's not the Jewish way. An intelligent person wants to hear the other side. Only by hearing the other side and by being challenged by the other side can you affirm and confirm what you know and really know what you know more deeply, or perhaps be challenged and say, you know what, I changed my mind. But if you're just going to stick with, I learned with Harav Yosef, I learned with Haram Mordechai Eliyahu, he learned with, Harav Avraham Shapira, he was the chief rabbi during the days of Haram Mordechai Eliyahu. I learned with Harav Avraham Shapira. And you never want to hear what other people have to say, you're not going to be a smart person. A smart person knows and understands. Now, this is one of the ideas also of having an insular existence, right? So there are some Jewish sects that believe that insularity is the secret to continuing the Jewish religion and the Jewish traditions. And this Mishnah would say the exact opposite. Insularity is not the solution. Insularity is very damaging. It means that you don't believe in what you're saying. If you believe in Shabbat, then you can see somebody mechalel Shabbat and you're okay. Doesn't make your eyes twitch because you know how to deal with it, right? I believe in Shabbat. Hashem wrote in the Torah to be shomer Shabbat. I understand it. I'm testifying that God created the world. And if I see somebody who doesn't want to do that, my mind can wrap itself around that concept, right? I believe that God created the world. I don't want to hear evolutionary theory. Well, why not? If you really believe God created the world, then why don't you want to hear evolutionary theory? It means that you have some doubt, right? And you're afraid of what you might find out. Now, if you're afraid of what you might find out, that means you really don't know what you know with certainty, right? So and this is part of the Sephardic approach, and this is part of the approach I learned from Anambam and from my father, which is no, study, learn. You have to be afraid of knowledge, right? Study. I want to hear the evolutionary theory. I want to hear what it was that Darwin said. I want to hear what a modern evolutionary theory says. I happen to think, and I say this with humility, that having studied evolutionary theory and modern molecular evolution at the molecular level, I find evolution to be a very difficult theory to accept. I do. But had I not studied it, I would never reach that conclusion, right? And I would say the same thing to the other side. I think that, like there's schools in America, public schools, you can't teach creationism. I think it's a mistake, even from their perspective. I think from the secular perspective, it's a mistake to take that insular approach. No, you can't teach creationism. Why not? Challenge them. You believe in evolution, challenge your theory. And hear the creationist thing. I'm writing a book. In the book, I say that the Jewish tradition believes that something created something, right? Something being the world was created by something. I said, as opposed to the secular tradition, which says that nothing created something. Right? I mean, those are the two choices. Either you say nothing created something, or something created something, and it's okay. I mean, I can accept and have a dialogue with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I can have a dialogue with who is that secular guy from Dawkins, right? Richard Dawkins. Who wrote something, The Blind Watchmaker, where he tries to show that really the evolution of the world could have taken place without a watchmaker. That's what he calls it, the blind watchmaker. So all this just lends credence. So now as a rabbi, I'm coming to you. I'm coming to all of you and I say, I believe in creationism. Well, if I never studied evolution, if I refused to study science, and I refused to listen to Richard Dawkins, you would say, okay, Rabbi, like you would respect me, of course, I know you would, and that. But it's not convincing. But it's because I wasn't afraid to study these things. You're like, that's a more credible opinion. You see what I'm saying? And vice versa, the other way. So, by the way, it's interesting. After October 7th, I heard that Richard Dawkins is kind of like beginning to speak more about the value of the Judeo-Christian tradition. That's what I heard some statements to that effect from him, which is very surprising. Because he's an avowed secularist or atheist, as he would. So maybe that's beginning to change. Be that as it may, that's the idea of Halomed Mikol Adam. So I gave you two explanations how Halomed Mikol Adam is so useful, right? So Shne'eman Mikol Melamedai Hiskalti. From all those who would teach me, I wanted to gain wisdom. This is David HaMelech saying, I wanted to gain wisdom from all the people who would teach me. Shalma, do you mind getting me the bottle of water from my, where I sit? All right, so that was wisdom. Let's go to the next thing. Ezu Gibor HaKovesh et Yisrael. The next one is, who is considered a man of Gevurah. Now in Hebrew, the word Gevurah doesn't mean strength. Strength is a Hazak. Hazak is a person who's strong, meaning muscular. Gibor refers to courage. So for example, a soldier who enters the battlefield, he's courageous, right? That's Gevurah, right? So what is the ultimate courage? Where does courage lie? You understand the question? So you would think, okay, who's courageous? A person who is willing to climb to the top of Mount Everest. It takes a lot of courage, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. There could be a freak snowstorm in the middle of the spring during the climbing season, and suddenly you're stuck there. So you say that takes courage. Thank you very much. Now, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech ha'olam shekol yam darom. Sorry about that. Or you say there's a bullet ants in I think South America. I believe in Brazil and Colombia they have bullet ants. So who's a courageous person? The bullet ant is like the one of the most painful stings in nature. So like if a person gets stung by a bullet ant, that's kaparat avonot for many years of many years of sinning. Just one bullet ant can just make complete kaparat avonot. So who's a courageous person? If you stick your hand into a nest of bullet ants, that's a courageous person, right? That takes tremendous courage, right? So climb Mount Everest, stick your hand with the bullet ants, whatever it is. That's I think, to a certain extent, in pagan thinking, we look at these things and we say that's very courageous, right? You have the Shiite Muslims, they take blades and they cut themselves with the blades. So you say, that's, wow, what courage, and the blood is dripping. So Judaism has a completely different idea of courage, and I want to explain it. Have you ever seen that, by the way, the Shiite procession when they're mourning the death of, I forgot what the name of I think it was the son-in-law of Muhammad who was killed or assassinated. There was a fight among the followers of Muhammad. When Muhammad died, who's going to become the next ruler of Islam? And then the Shiites followed somebody who was killed in a very barbaric way. And so it had this procession. So on the day of his death, or on the day celebrating his death, they cut themselves with knives. Nobody saw that? It's really dramatic footage. This is very common in Lebanon because a lot of Shiites there. Anyway, so that's courageous, so very courageous. All right, so Ezu Gibo. So what is considered courage in Jewish thinking? Hakovesh et Yisro, a person who can conquer his own evil inclinations. Okay. So you understand the idea. So the idea is, if you can conquer your evil inclinations, that makes you a courageous person. I just want to ask a question, like, where's the courage? Like, where's the courage? Like, what's so courageous? I mean, I'm not saying it's not a worthy endeavor. It's worthy. It's a very worthy endeavor. So a person has a problem. He has a certain rage. I don't know. He was abused as a child, and now he's rageful as an adult. So he conquers that rage. My question to all of you is, why do we consider that to be courageous? You understand my question? Where's the courage? So if you studied C.G. Jung, who I mentioned sometimes in my classes, Carl Gustav Jung, he was I think one of the greatest psychologists of the 20th century, perhaps I think certainly the most fascinating, early 20th century, a little after Sigmund Freud. So he talks about the human psyche, and he talks about the different forces within the human psyche that are kind of, shall we say, animating the human spirit. So some of these forces are conflicting forces, right? So there's all these different forces within the subconscious, and these percolate outwards. Now, there's a part of our personality that we know about. But then, as I said, there are these subliminal or subconscious forces that he calls the shadow. The shadow in Jungian thinking is that part of the personality that I'm not aware of, but that manipulates me. Now, one of the most difficult things for a person to do is to have an honest look at his own shadow. It's actually rather horrifying, right? So I believe C.G. Jung talks about patients that they would encounter the shadow in their dreams, and he did psychoanalysis, and he would try to help the patients, for example. So sometimes a person can see his own shadow in his dream, and it really is quite terrifying, because the shadow represents actual forces that animate us at a very real level, and we just don't want to acknowledge these things because it's like, no, I can't be. That's not what I am at all. And what happens is that if you don't have the courage, and I'm using that word intentionally, the courage to face your shadow, and many people and most people don't, you'll never deal with those negative manipulations, right? Because when you sublimate inner conflicts, they explode outwards from other directions. So what the Mishnah is saying is, the most courageous thing for a person to do is not to face the external enemy. The most courageous thing for a person to do is to face the internal enemy. If you can face the internal enemy, which is your shadow, and figure out how to get yourself in order, that's courage, because that's really who you are, and nobody wants to know that, right? Am I being clear? Like I'm just, yeah, it's like, okay. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Tov erech hapayim gibor. It's better to be a person who's forgiving than to be, a warrior. Meaning, you go into a city, you conquer the city. So what's the first instinct? Kill everybody. So Shlomo HaMelech says, no. If you're a really smart king, you won't just kill everybody. That's not a smart thing to do. Your instinct says kill everybody. That's not. A strong person controls the urge to kill all these people. And then the pasuk continues and it says, "Umoshel berucho min lo ched ir." But there's somebody who's even more courageous or more strong than the person who conquered that city. So we told the person who conquered the city, control yourself, don't kill everybody, show compassion. And if you are the person who can conquer your own inner evil spirit, then you're more courageous, more powerful than a person who conquered a city. You understand? Because the inner psyche of a person is actually like a city. Because you think you're just a person, but you're not. You actually have all these different forces within you. And these forces, as I said before, are contradictory. So you have the city, and you have to conquer it. And then you integrate the different parts of your psyche, and you come out as a whole individual. Right? All right, I hope I'm not like, if you want to read more about this, one of the Talmidim of C.G. Young was Robert Johnson. He wrote a book called Inner Work. And in the book Inner Work, he actually gives very specific, and you can get this on Amazon, he actually gives very specific instructions how to do exactly this. How to take the different parts of the inner, take the different elements conflicting each other and integrate them and become a more complete individual. All right? So that's Robert Johnson, Inner Works. I have no royalties on that. I'm saying it just because I think it really was a useful book.
What's the name of that in Musar? Hitbodedut?
The what? Oh, hitbodedut. Yeah. Hitbodedut means to be alone, to cut yourself off, and to really like do inner work and inner thinking. Because you can't do it because when you're distracted by all the external things around us, and there's so many distractions, it's very difficult for a person to do the inner work that's required. So they have the idea of hitbodedut, go be alone, undistracted, away from people, and start doing this inner thinking and be more connected with your inner soul. Yeah, hitbodedut. All right. Let's continue. So we did wisdom, chokhmah rather. We did gevura, courage. Ezu ashir. What about wealth? So it says Ezu ashir. Hasamech bechakah. Where's Mikey, by the way? Is he watching a game or something? Maybe DVR. Did he DVR it and I was watching it tonight because he couldn't watch it last night?
He broke my dryer somehow.
Yeah.
So he's trying to fix it.
He's trying to hot seat.
But that was like,
All right. So it wasn't a game. Wasn't a game.
No.
Okay. Okay.
He'll be here soon.
He'll be here soon. All right. So Ezu Hashir. So who is a person of wealth, a rich person, right? If I were a rich man, right? It says, if you're happy with what you have. Okay. So if you're happy with what you have, you're a rich person. Can we be honest for a second? Really? This is a rich person? I don't know. Like one guy has a stock portfolio, 50 million. And another guy has 100,000 in a stock, but he's happy. So who's the rich person? Let's be honest.
Monetarily, the person with more,
But how do we define wealth? Isn't that what wealth is? No, I'm asking, right? No, I mean, you could be right.
You could define it any way you want to. You could define it by money, you could define it by...
It's the same idea as strength.
Okay. So
You
here's
have
the
your
thing.
health, you have your family, you have a lot of other things that can considered rich?
So, according to this, a person who doesn't have so much assets, but he has enough. And how do I know he has enough? Because he's happy. Samech bechilko means he's happy with what he has, which means it's not a poor person. Because if it was a poor person, he wouldn't be samech bechilko. So let's get that out of this. I mean, I'm not into like this phony, ideas. I want to be real. Okay, so we can exclude poor people who don't have what they need, because poor people who don't have what they need are not happy with what they have, because naturally they need things, right? Otherwise we wouldn't need it. So you need clothing, you need shelter, a place to live, hopefully a bed, hopefully some chairs. So let's say middle class person. So let's say there's a middle class person who has a nice life and he has what he needs, and he's not wanting, but he's not rich. And we're saying no, he's rich. What's the condition for wealth? How was the dryer? Did that work out? Okay. Oh. Your wife is going to be upset. I don't know. Okay. All right.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. It's okay.
You were watching the game.
I thought you were watching. I thought you taped the game from yesterday and you were watching it tonight. Okay. All right. So yeah. So I want to explain this. Because I actually think it's a deep idea. Because there are people who have very successful stock portfolios. God, and we all want that. We're not Christians. Thank you. We're not Christians. Meaning we're not into this idea of no, it's not good. No, it's great. It's very good that Hashem blesses you and you have a nice stock portfolio and you have a nice house and you can provide for your children and for your wife. That's a great thing. Jewish thinking looks positively upon successful people. That's the truth. And thank God. Okay? Now, but the question is as follows, and this really takes it into a slightly different direction. If you have a lot, but you can't enjoy what you have, because you're always struggling. So from the Jewish perspective, this isn't wealth, right? Wealth, from the Jewish perspective, is when you can enjoy your assets. I don't know. If I have like the biggest stock portfolio in the world, but I have a miserable life, I refuse to sell any of the stock, and not me, the person lives, in a dingy, dark, small, dusty place. He's not rich. He may have a lot of assets, as you put it. He may have a nice balance sheet. But wealth means the ability to sit down and stop and just enjoy. Not everybody can stop. We're always doing like right? So as a Ashir, making money is only step one, and it's an important step. I wasn't against it. I think I was very clear. We should all make a lot of money. Amen. Right? But the final step to Osher, and enjoy it. Right? Enjoy your money. Shlomo HaMelech says that the most beautiful thing is when you have a wonderful wife, and Ehayim, you should be able to see a beautiful life with the wife that you love, right? Because sometimes you have a beautiful wife and God gave you but you don't know how to enjoy it. You don't have time. You're too wound up. And the pasuk says, Shene'emar. You know what the most beautiful thing David HaMelech talks about it? Yeria kapecha kitochel. You worked hard and you were sweating, right? You really worked hard, and we believe in hard work, by the way. I believe Yerata Masata Ta'amin. I don't believe, meaning, I want to be clear about this. There's a beautiful pasuk, and we say it during the Havdalah. Vahi David lechol derachav maskil, v'Adonai imo. So David HaMelech was very successful, and the pasuk says, whatever he did, he was maskil. Maskil means he did it with sechel, with thinking. He thought about every move very carefully, right? And he made intelligent decisions. That's what sechel means. And it says, V'Adonai imo, and God was with him. So what does it say? If God is with him, then why does he have to make intelligent decisions? That's the point. If you are not intelligent in the way you make decisions in your life, and you don't think carefully, and you don't act carefully, and you don't make an effort, right? And then you say, well, God isn't with me. Why isn't God with me? Well, the pasuk says, "Vayi David lechol delacham maskil v'Adonai imo." Because David HaMelech was so careful to do everything precisely and to do everything strategically and with thinking ahead of time, and God was with him. You understand the point? Right? If a person, again, I say this a lot, if a person crosses the street, this car is going down the highway and he enters, the street, where was God? Why wasn't God with me? God gave you a brain, to use the brain, to think carefully, and if you do everything you need to do, then God will be with you. But you can't ignore the brain that God gave you to protect yourself and then say, God, where was God? God was the one who gave you the brain. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, don't put yourself in danger.
Don't put yourself in danger. Don't do anything stupid. Don't act stupidly and then complain to God. Person, took marijuana, got addicted, then started cocaine, got addicted, then went to heroin, I don't know what else there is. Fentanyl, whatever. I'm sick, God, why is this happening to me? I didn't give you the marijuana. I think you bought the marijuana willingly. You're the one who started this whole series of events. Right? You see what I'm saying? So, Yevia Kapecha, there's nothing more beautiful than you work hard. You put in the time, you made the effort, ki tochel. What is ki tochel? And then you sit down and you can eat. You can enjoy the food with the people around you, right? Ashrecha, right? This is a fortunate person, v'tov lach, and this is going to bring good to you. And the Chachamim say on that pasuk, Ashrecha ba'olam hazeh. You are fortunate in this world that you can enjoy your hard work. Because Yevia Kapecha, as I said, is only step one. Step one is work hard. Hitochel, stop. Just enjoy yourself. That's step two. And if you do that, you're a blessed person. Ashrecha, right? V'tov lach. I want to say v'tov lach. V'tov lach means in the future they'll be good. Le'olam haba, you get rewarded in the world to come. Meaning, a person who works hard in this world, puts in an honest day's living, and works hard and tries to do what he does with integrity and correctly and precisely, this can bring him to Olam Haba. V'tov lach le'olam haba. But this completely, it completely contradicts the yeshiva world attitude, where they think that somehow work is somehow something negative or something bad. It's just from the perspective. Let me correct myself. Hold on. From the perspective of the Christian monasteries, work was a bad thing. They are correct about that. Meaning, in Christian religion, they believe that monasteries are the people are, the holy men are in the monasteries and they don't work. And they have a partnership with the French government, and eventually people couldn't stand it anymore, and they did the French Revolution. But the Christian perspective was that the monasteries, they have men of God, and they don't have to work. But from the perspective, and that's unfortunately too common among some of our brothers in thinking like that, but it's a Christian idea, it's not a Jewish idea. Because the Jewish idea actually says that hard work in and of itself and success in and of itself is something we should strive for. And if you strive for this, v'tov lach, le'olam haba, in the world to come. You understand? Fantastic idea. So never be embarrassed of working hard, never be embarrassed of success. It's something that makes us blessed. We get the success because we use the brain that God gave us, and God blesses us as well, and we achieve, and then we can sit down and enjoy what we have. Any questions?
Yeah, what about the people that believe hard work and success is learning all day? It could be interpreted differently.
Yevia kapecha ki tochel. The Chachamim, they were so careful in the way they presented ideas to us. And what the Chachamim are telling us, by bringing this pasuk in the context of osher, in the context of wealth, they're making it clear. Don't twist what we're saying. Don't twist what we're saying. Not to mention that the Chachamim themselves, they worked. The Gemara says so. we know what the different Chachamim did, right? So I can take any text and I can try to twist it. But if the writer is careful, right, he knows ahead of time how they're going to try to twist his words. Ezehu ashir. You understand? So they put it there intentionally. Don't twist our words. Okay. All right, let's continue. And by the way, I want to say something. I think Torah accomplishment is the greatest accomplishment. I really do. I don't want to put it down, God forbid. I mean, I think the greatest success in life, first of all, you need to have wealth. If you don't have wealth, it's really going to be difficult. But okay. But the greatest pinnacle is the ability to study Torah and to fulfill the Torah. Right? So you study and you fulfill. And we're always studying and we always try to become better and learn more and become better, right? There's no question that that's important. I'm not saying it's not important. Of course. The greatest Hachamim, they worked. They had money. There's no case you'll see where, at least I'm not aware, maybe there is. Maybe there is, I'm just not aware of it. All the Hachamim that I know from the Rishonim, whether it was Rashi, he made wine, whether it was Rambam, he was a doctor, whether it was Lavinu Bachya ibn Pakuda, he was an astronomer in the king's court, also a doctor, whether it was Rav Zakuto, he was a map maker, right? All the Hachamim that had success, and they were the greatest Hachamim, they also worked.
Well, it says in one of the Mishnahs here that you have to work and to learn Torah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, correct. So this idea, we know where it came from. I mean, it's not, just study a little history and you see, because one of the things that you study in history is not just events, but the history of ideas. And you see where this idea came from, and okay, whatever. We respect everybody, but we also want to know the truth for ourselves. We want to know what the truth is. So no disrespect, God forbid, to anybody. In fact, the next Mishnah, the next one, Ezeu Mechubad, who will receive respect? If you show respect to others. Showing respect to others is a supreme quality. And showing respect to others means to respect people not only who you agree with, but to respect people who you disagree with. You understand? And it says, you respect almost, Beriot means all of God's creations. Meaning, when you look at an individual, you should look at that individual as if although he is a creation of God. There's a famous story in the Gemara. It was with Nahum Ish Gamzu, and he was a known Chacham, Nahum Ish Gamzu, and he was once riding his donkey to get back home, and on the way home, somebody approached him and he began to speak with him. And at some point, Nahum Ish Gamzu told him, and I don't know why he said this, because it's very unbecoming of anybody to speak like this, but Nahum Ish Gamzu told him, like, words to the effect that he was very ugly. Yeah, I'm not sure why. I'm just telling you the story. I'm relating the story as it was. And that person told Nahum Ish Gamzu, you probably are right. Why don't you go to the person who created me and complain to him how he messed this up. He messed it up. So Nahum Ish Gamzu immediately realized what a horrible thing he did. Probably he was from a long trip. Who knows why? Some people have slips of the tongue. Sometimes people say things in a moment. It happens. We all have weaknesses. We don't have to pretend like it's not true. He said something he shouldn't have said, but he immediately realized that it was a horrible thing. Go to my Creator and complain to him. It was like, oh my gosh. So he started begging him for forgiveness. Nahum Ish Gamzu started begging the other guy for forgiveness, and the other guy says, no, go to my Creator. You should go to him and tell him what happened. And I like the word beriot, milashon beriyah, something that was created. Meaning, when you look at a person, remember he's a creation of God, right? And respect him as a creation of God, right? Hamechabed et haberiot, right? And there's a pasuk that says, Shne'emar, Ki mechaberai achaber. God says, I will give respect to those who respect me. How do you respect God?
By respecting his creations.
Beautiful. Exactly. If you respect God's creations, God will respect you. Ubozai kanon. People who disrespect God's creations, they will be disrespected by God. There's I just give you one example. Actually, it's related to the next Mishnah, but I see we're getting to the time, and I just want to make this like one nice point. So respect the creation. So why did God create wasps? Right? Very annoying creatures, just pests. You know, they're like, we all dislike wasps. Well, actually, I don't want to be disrespectful. Does anybody in this room like wasps? No, nobody.
Not very fun.
Not very fond, okay. Right. So, like, it's a creation of God, and he said, like, you know, why did God create wasps? So I was, I think this is probably, I was in Columbia University. I used to take some courses. I used to like science, even though I was a history major. So I took a course in biology, and there was ecology, and yeah, this is back in the 1980s. So what happened is, yeah, here's the story. Yes, there was a group of scientists, and they were in this African village because they wanted to study something about the jungle. All right, now they would go into the jungle, and what happened is that when they entered the jungle, there were wasps in the jungle. Now they lived in these wooden huts. It was it was like an ancient village. It wasn't like, you know, built up city. It was like a village like with wooden huts and whatever. Okay, but they were there for their like jungle expedition or studies. So they just finally couldn't stand the wasps anymore, and they started going on this campaign like with pesticide to kill all the wasps. And it took a few weeks and a few months, and eventually they went to all the wasp nests and they just killed all the wasps. Okay, great. They go into the jungle now. Everything is wonderful. No more wasps to bother them. They're happy, right? A few months later, the wooden huts in the village, they begin to crumble. So what is going on? So like, why the huts crumbling? Okay, so it turns out that the wasps, they eat a lot of pests, and they eat a lot of different insects, because the wasps are predatory. Now, one of the insects they ate were termites. Now, what happened is when they got rid of the wasps, the termite population exploded. Now, it happens to be that termites love to eat wood. So because there were too many termites, they began to eat the wooden huts, and the huts began to collapse because there were no more wasps. There was a similar thing that happened in farms. So in farmlands, they used to have wasps, and they used to try to get rid of the wasps with pesticides. And what always used to happen as a result was that the aphids and caterpillar population would explode, thus eating and destroying the crops. So they would have to bring more pesticides to kill the aphids and the caterpillars, which resulted in, of course, poisonous food for people. So they decided to bring the wasps back because they realized the wasp was really the best way to ensure that we have healthy, non-pesticide food crops growing with not too many caterpillars. So it's just interesting. That's the idea of Ezeu Mechubad Mechabed et Beriot. There's a famous story with David HaMelech. He seemed to hate spiders. My kids, they hate spiders. I don't like spiders, but I don't freak out if there's a little spider on the wall. So anytime there's like a spider in the room, like my kids are, oh, there's a spider! Like, what happened? Like, what's going on? Everything okay? I'm like, wow, there's a spider. I expect to see like a tarantula. There's like a little, like, over there. Where? I can't see. What, that black dot? It's a spider. Yeah, it's a spider. Okay. Just like, go kill it. I don't know, like smash it with your hand. That's it. Halas. You know, so I don't like spiders, but I'm not like, you know, whatever. So David HaMelech, he seemed to have been like my children. He hated spiders. David HaMelech once told Hashem, why do we have spiders? Like the most annoying, scary, you know, like 8 legs, whatever. Like, okay. Says, why do we have spiders? Hashem said, one day you're going to be begging me for a spider. You're going to be thanking me that I created spiders. So this is when Shaul was chasing him and wanted to kill him. And we're studying this every Shabbat afternoon for those of you who come to the class. And on one of the occasions, Shaul almost got to him, and David HaMelech was in the mountains, and he had to run away into a cave. Now, what happened is that Shaul was spending a day or two looking, because he knew David was somewhere in those mountains, and he was passing cave to cave, and every cave he would enter, and he would enter the cave all the way in and search and get out, and then go to the next cave. Now, while all this was happening, David HaMelech saw a spider, and the spider was at the entrance to his cave, and the spider started weaving a web. And when Shaul got to the entrance of that cave, he saw there's a spider web there. It can't be that David HaMelech is here. There's a spider web. He would have been here. He went to the next cave and his life was saved, right? So everything has a purpose. Everything has a place, and therefore we respect all of God's creations. And by the way, I'll just leave it at this. It's just amazing. What's happening in the universe is really just awe-inspiring when you see how every single thing has a precise function. It's like you go crazy. Even though I believe in God, it's still right. I don't need something to affirm my belief in God, but yet these things are just nuts. Let's give you one example. What's larger, the sun or the moon? Okay. Okay. I mean, the sun is so crazy huge. It's like nuts. Okay. I mean, think of the fact that the sun is just one giant hydrogen bomb, and it's going to last for another 2 billion years or something like that. So it's crazy large. The moon is teeny relative to the sun. It's much smaller than the Earth as well. I'm not going to get into all the whatever. There's so many things to say about that, but just one simple fact. Just one little nothing fact. If you look at the size of the moon in the sky and the size of the sun in the sky, the sun is 93 million miles away average from the Earth. What is the moon? Like, what am I, 250, 270, somebody Google it, 275,000 miles? Just distance, I don't know, I forgot. Whatever it is.
Over under. What are we doing?
Distance of moon from Earth. Something like that, I don't remember. I know the moon,
238.
okay. So I was pretty close.
Way off.
You gotta use
Okay, so I was pretty close. Okay, 238,000. Okay, so 238,000 miles, 93 million miles. 93 million miles.
Yep.
The sun. Now it happens to be that the distance of the sun is such, and the size of the sun is such, that when you have the moon passing over the sun, it covers it perfectly. Now, do you know that many of the scientific discoveries over the course of the last century are attributable to the fact that the moon perfectly covers the sun, right? Not more, not less. It's almost like not only did God try to balance the universe in a crazy way, which I'm not even talking about that for now, but he wanted us to be aware of the fact that he's balancing the universe. It's a nutty thing. So Albert Einstein famously wanted to, had a new theory of gravity, and he had what's called four-dimensional space-time, and that space is actually curved, and the gravitational force actually curves space. And then there was a complete solar eclipse, and at the time of the solar eclipse, because the moon so perfectly covers the sun, not more, not less, there was light from another star that was passing by the sun, and that enabled him to see that indeed space is curved, because the trajectory of that light coming from that star was going in a curved way as it approached the sun. They would not have discovered this but for the fact that there was this perfect alignment between how the sun and moon appear in the sky. It's really crazy. So again, it's not just that God balanced the universe, but he wanted us to become aware here on planet Earth, 238,000 miles away from the moon, that the universe is balanced. So anyway, I think we can stop here, okay? 2:15. Yeah, whatever. Any questions?
Spoke about last week, I forgot to mention it. Why do we learn Pirqe Abot between Pesach and Shavuot?
Ask me the beginning of the class.
I don't want to interrupt.
No, that's okay. Ask me next time. Next time I'm giving you permission to interrupt me, no matter what I'm talking about, and say, because I want to give it's a 5-minute explanation, so I want to give it like it's a good question. All right, gentlemen.